welcome back to another exciting adventure right here on Radio Wasteland. That's everybody's favorite talk show. I'm your host, Chauncey Haworth. This is my co-host, Kara Kittrick.
Hello.
Kara, before we get into any articles, I gotta say I'm feeling and looking a little frazzled because I washed the car. Last weekend, I washed the car and did some work around the house, and it took me like 4 days to physically recover. I was just so sore and stiff. I think I need to not sit here quite as often.
For our listeners, the car is what Chauncey calls the gigantic feral manticore that lives in his yard.
Yeah, totally.
Claimed 30 human lives. It's very ornery, extremely deadly.
I would feel good about that, but unfortunately it's a Kia Soul. So,
oh God, even worse.
Yeah. All right, Kara, what's going on in the news?
Okay, well, so a truck containing 100 monkeys crashed in Philadelphia. These monkeys were bound for a CDC quarantine center, but the location of that center and the purpose of the monkeys was unknown, although this particular species is often used in medical research. A spokesperson with the CDC later said that all the monkeys were accounted for, except for 3, which had to be euthanized.
I find all of this just ruthless to animals. Did you hear the one about the mice?
No.
Okay, so I've caught these stories coming through on Stephen Colbert, and for one, these monkeys, it's like they had a freedom they didn't even know. I mean, they knew they wanted freedom, but they had no idea of what the future held in store for them, and they got recaptured. And that's really kind of sad. I was kind of rooting for the monkey to...
You were rooting for the monkeys?
Get adopted by some old lady, kind of like the Lake Placid alligator, right.
And then they bite her and they get zombie COVID, and then that spreads, and then, the next thing you know, you're having to quarantine the Northeast. And
at least it's freedom, and it didn't have to wear a mask.
Yeah, I don't think the monkeys were wearing masks. No word on whether the monkeys were vaccinated or right. With what.
So with these mice, they have figured out a male contraceptive. They took mice and they injected, I want to say, iron into them, and then put big magnets by their balls and heated their balls up to 107 to 113 degrees to temporarily sterilize them.
As you do.
So they had electrodes and stuff inserted into their balls while having all this iron put on them and like all this stuff. And if it went over 113 degrees, the article said the balls didn't recover.
Imagine someone tuning in right now who doesn't know we're talking about mice.
Yeah, okay. The mice.
Yeah, it was 30 gym teachers from Arkansas who volunteered for a drug study, and they didn't know what would happen.
They put electrodes on there. Yeah. Yeah, so I just heard this and I'm just all, that is absolutely just horrifying.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand
for a male contraceptive.
Yeah, are people so opposed to condoms? I get that the pill needs to be worked on because that has a lot of side effects, but really condoms have no side effects.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. Just torturing animals for... I understand maybe torturing an animal to... Even saying that out loud, I feel terrible, but I understand torturing an animal to maybe cure a disease or save some children or something like that. But,
yeah.
I mean, to torture an animal to prevent children seems a little ruthless,
Well, and children are like a disease.
Yeah, I get it. I get it, and I don't know. What's your take on animal testing? Do you have
I don't know. I think it's necessary, but I don't really have strong feelings on it, mostly because I just haven't thought about it that much. I have taken like way too many issues onto my plate, probably. I probably need to narrow it down and stop caring about a few issues because they're just bumming me out. And like, it's best to choose one thing really and just choose that to really care about it and know all the ins and outs. So animal testing,
monkeys is not one of them.
Right. So animal testing, it's like something, this is an issue. This is a big deal. It's worth talking about. But like, I do not have space in my plate. So I'm just like, it's fine. Torture the monkeys. But magnetize those mice balls. Do whatever you want.
Right. I don't know. So the issue that I have with it is the same issue that I have with cancel culture in general. To put it in a thing that people understand, is that you have this whole topic. You got this whole topic, and it's full of just tons of crazy, like absolute crazy. But down here at the start of the topic is some stuff that really needs to be addressed and paid attention to. And it's just been piled on top of with a bunch of crazy. And I feel that way about animal testing. At the bottom of this topic, there are animals being tortured so that one can have better mascara. I think that should probably be illegal.
Right.
Now, if you're doing medical testing and stuff like that, okay, we can talk about that. But like with cancel culture, it's like, definitely. Keep women out of the workplace. Okay, that needs to be addressed. But Mr. Potato Head can probably slide. It's like, I don't know. Everything just gets this box, and the box becomes bigger and bigger to the point where the actual issue in the middle is just totally ignored. It's thrown out with the bathwater.
It sounds like what you're complaining about is that there's nuance involved with this issue.
Well, we don't have a lot of nuance. That's right. Trevor Noah was calling it context. Somebody was calling him out on a joke about race because he was basically saying like, you have to use the term black. You can't really use African American. And they're just, well, what about this, that, and the other thing? He's just, a lot of black people are not African American.
Right.
He's just, they're from islands. They're from South Africa. They're here on visas. They're going to college. He's like, you can't just blanket this term out there because it really just doesn't cover it. And I thought that was really smart. That here's a box that's gotten out of hand that people just sort of use. And I think that's why people, at least this is in no way educated, but it feels like the world has kind of gone back to using the word black more than African American.
Oh yeah, I think that's correct because black is fine. I think black is the accepted term, but I don't see. This is why I've chosen not to care about this issue. Because
sorry for wasting your time, but go ahead.
No, I understand I'm on a radio show where we talk about things that we don't know about, but I'm being serious. I think the solution to this problem of boxes getting out of hand is choose some topics where you're like, I got nothing to contribute here and I just won't. Right? I think more people need to do that. I think more people need to have some humility about like not every issue needs it's not like we would have solved the Israel-Palestinian conflict if for the like input of Jerry from Minnesota. Like that was the secret sauce we needed.
Right.
We don't need to weigh in on every little thing.
I see.
I say on talk radio, where our job is to weigh in on everything.
No, I agree with you. And this is a big part of the message of our show is turn down the din. Turn down that din, that volume that's covering up an actual issue and, think a little bit and walk away. It's like, gay and gay issues and black issues and a lot of this stuff, I just say, well, we need to do what's best for them and try to help them out. And I'm here to, help and vote and do what I got to do. But aside from that, I don't insert a lot of my own opinion.
Right.
As a cisgender white male, for one, people don't want to hear it. For two, my opinion is, chill out. If you weren't a jerk, none of this would be an issue to begin with.
Right. So, yeah, I would say, pick 5 things to care about, right? And just learn all the things about that, research the heck out of those 5 things so that when it comes up, you have something useful to say, right? Yeah. Rather than picking 20 things where like kind of just a little bit to think that you know something, but not enough to know that you don't know anything.
All right. Well, I have been thinking about this before we move on to the next story, and that is that Radio Wasteland needs a cause. Something that you, me, Andrea, that we all care about and that we can put donated dollars to and knowledge and spread the word about. And, we care about things. So maybe we need to pick something we care about to be knowledgeable.
Yeah. Well, that's a thought.
So,
maybe for now, maybe donate to, like, I don't know, the Red Cross or something, not Radio Wasteland. But
no, that's what I mean. Like, find a
right.
nonprofit
No, I see.
that we support.
Yeah.
Not people give us money. No.
Oh, God.
But we say, hey, help these people because, we believe these people.
Right.
All right, moving on.
We should do that.
What's
okay, what else we got? So a bill backed by powerful utility companies in Florida would slash the financial benefits for people using rooftop solar, which critics say could basically end the solar industry in Florida overnight. Currently, homes with solar are reimbursed for the energy they send back into the grid at a similar rate that they pay for energy received from utilities. This bill would cut that rate by 75% and set a minimum monthly payment amount. Florida Power and Light says that currently solar-using customers are costing non-solar customers about 50 cents a month and that this amount could grow. The introducer of this legislation, Jennifer Bradley, has received numerous massive campaign contributions from Florida Power and Light, a fact that she has not publicly acknowledged or addressed.
So we're assuming that this is
here's the thing
about power trying to squash solar power.
Here's the thing about this story. I looked at it from a bunch of different outlets. They were all trying real hard, even CNN, which is like as milquetoast as news comes. They were trying real hard to dance around the fact that this is just like blatant corruption. Like there is no one really who is knowledgeable on this issue who thinks that the solar power companies have like not the solar power companies, but the utilities think that they have a point here.
Well, at least solar power is becoming so financially dangerous that people want to fight it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's a good thing. It's so funny to me that even the news covered stories were like, yeah, so this would have untold negative consequences and would benefit no one. But they want it anyway. It's like, God, how did we get here?
Well, that's really the question that's coming to mind for me. Like you said, even CNN, milquetoast CNN, who danced around the topic.
Right.
Why? Why dance around the topic of obvious?
Well, that's what I say. I said, why not just say, yeah, this state senator's corrupt. These companies want more money and they want to, make solar not financially viable for this very dubious idea that solar customers are costing non-solar customers money, which is like they just report on it. Like they just say, this is what they say, and this is what they say. It's like, okay, but what is that true? Is it accurate? It sounds like no,
you gotta
not
ask
really.
yourself, in this world of Fox News's and CNN's, obviously.
Sure.
Do I even know what news is anymore? So them presenting the facts to me and me coming up with my own opinion, hey, this is corrupt. Maybe that is the news. Maybe that's the news. Maybe that's what we should be reading. Oh God. Is that the news? Is that what I should be reading? What's being left out here that should be reported that?
No, I mean, it's pretty much accurate. I just wish they were more blatant about spelling it out for the viewer that, hey, this is only a thing we're talking about because the utility companies are already rich and they don't like solar messing up their margins.
Yeah.
And this bill is probably going to pass. That's the depressing thing. It's like, no one wants it. People don't want it. It's not like there's some big grassroots movement. We hate solar. Conservatives like solar. Democrats like solar. Everyone likes solar. It's not like when you use solar, every time someone installs solar panels on the roof, someone becomes gay, right? It's right. Not like there's really some part in the culture wars where like these people think solar is good and these people think solar is evil. Like at most people are ambivalent to solar. This is purely just manufactured by the companies.
Yeah, and I I think we all agree with the science that, okay, that's a weird statement, but we'll go with it. That our planet is basically constantly bathed in enough energy to power our entire civilization multiple times over.
Yeah.
And we are just having a hard time extracting it.
Right. Yeah. I mean, there are issues with solar in terms of like energy storage, basically. That's the reason why everything isn't just
I'm
solar.
just saying we're all on board,
like,
aren't we? Energy independence. I mean, that is energy independence.
And the thing about Florida, you might not know, there's a lot of sun.
Yeah, that's true.
I get the feeling maybe you did know that. This is news to me. I learned this looking up the article.
It is the sunshine state, is it not?
Yes, it is.
So it seems like that would be the place.
No, there's a fair amount of sun in Florida. So
this is another example of these political sort of talking points that people get behind. It's like, I don't know, I'm just constantly amazed at how blatant, for one, how blatant marketing can be.
Mm-hmm.
But for two, how blatant supposedly secret manipulations are. Right. It's like, so you see like the government or a politician or a big corporation say, well, we're doing this now. And I automatically go, well, why are you doing that? What are you covering up? And like, it's blatantly obvious, but nobody seems to be looking at it or care. Nobody cares. I'm not sure if it's looking or caring or both.
Yeah. So, I mean, we were talking a few weeks ago about like just partisanship in the country and stuff. And I think a lot of the partisanship is just like genuine differences between individual people. But there's stuff like this that is just like a handful of guys in a boardroom wanted it, and now it's going to pass, and it's just like, and people talk about that on the left and the right, all the crazy Illuminati conspiracies, which I, think there's nothing to them, but also like you see things like this. And if you say to me, special interests are controlling our country and, small groups of very rich people have more power than, giant swaths of voters, I'm like, yeah, that's true. If you say to me, they're also lizard people, I say, well, no, that's not real. And that's based on like, and that's like based on anti-Semitic tropes and stuff.
Right.
But yeah, there totally are these guys who just buy legislation because they're so rich.
They're reptilian in the adjective sense. But
right. In the sense of being cold-blooded. Yes.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So it's always weird to me how Republicans back this. Like, I understand the idea of republicanism, the free market and stuff like that. I understand it to the point where, I believe a lot of it. I just can't get behind some other Republican belief systems because I'm just all like, that's horrible. So I got to hang out with these people because they're nice. I like nice people. I want, but.
Yeah, sure. And it's like most of the Republicans I know,
they're not
horrible. Like people are like, they're down with solar. They're down with electric, know.
This is my example is, are they aware that if I wanted to start a couch company, I could buy all the wood, I could buy all the fabrics, I could get the stuff, I could see, hey, this is what needs to happen for it, and I could build couches. I could not sell them nationwide. I could not get them into big stores and get them out there without paying heavy dues to big couch, to big furniture. There's literally big in front of almost every industry in this country. So like, let's say you're a farmhand, you're a conservative farmhand, less government, can't do this. Just got myself inherited, couple hundred cows from my family. I cannot start a milk company.
Right.
Big milk will squash me. You want to do it with radishes, big radish will squash you. It's just the way it is. You're going to be selling radishes to big radish or nobody else. And that seems so contradictory to this less government belief system.
Well, I mean, back when I lived in Reading, I remember having a conversation with a small business owner guy, and he was basically talking about like big tech companies, and he was saying, yeah, it's gotten out of hand. They need to be broken up. very laissez-faire, like libertarian guy. I think Republican like people, like voters, are on a whole host of issues super far to the left of the guys they vote into office, like something like half of Republicans want universal health care. And yet and yet you would not think that from like what Republican politicians do in office, which is mostly try to squash universal health care. Like I feel for people who vote Republican because like their politicians are very out of touch. And to be fair, it's also true of Democrats. I would say Democratic politicians are well to the right of where most of the party is. So on a lot of issues.
All right. Well, and it's maybe we can make that the one issue that people pay attention to. Now. All right. What do you got?
We're starting the Radio Wasteland party. Let's see. Jury selection begins this week for Sarah Palin's defamation lawsuit against the New York Times. So in 2017, a New York Times editorial incorrectly claimed the person who shot Gabby Giffords was inspired by a graphic produced by the Palin campaign. And it was later established that there was no particular link. So the Times corrected this error and apologized, but Palin sued for defamation, naturally. This case hinges on whether this was an honest mistake, as the Times said, or an act of malice, as Palin says. Most experts expect that Palin will lose, as she faces, quote, an enormous uphill legal battle to prove actual intent on the part of the newspaper. Still, this could be a big case, and it could go to the Supreme Court.
I've thought about this one a lot, especially civil suits, because, a lot of people don't know the law in this area. I don't pretend to know. My dad was a lawyer, so he summed it up for me. I don't pretend to know the specifics. But in the case of criminal court, the burden of proof is on the prosecution.
Right.
In civil court, the burden of proof is on the defendant. And you can sue anybody for anything. I could literally say, you're looking at me funny. It offends me. I'm suing you right now. I could go file it and it could happen.
Oh, God.
It would get thrown out by the judge, but it would get in front of a judge.
Right. And this court actually was dismissed by one judge already, but then in appeals, it got picked up again.
Yeah. And so just to put that out there, anybody could do this. I could have sued the New York Times, is it?
Yeah.
I could have sued the New York Times for what they said about Serpent.
Mm-hmm.
I'd lose, but I could.
Right.
So defamation has always been a weird one to me, especially in the cases of when you're a public persona. Now, something that's not really fair is, does she really count as a public persona anymore?
That's fair. I mean, yes, she does legally, but yeah, she hasn't been super big. And this was back in the wheels of the court system just moved so slowly that like it's happening now. But this is a thing that's many years old.
I see. It was relevant at the time. What did she post? Go shoot this chick in the face?
Well, she posted, or I think in a campaign, it was a graphic put out by the campaign, and it was a map of the U.S. with crosshairs over a bunch of electoral districts, including Gabby Giffords.
Okay.
So, it was horrifying what she put out, and you could easily argue basically that this guy was inspired, but it happened that no, this guy never saw the graphic. So
even if he did, it's not like the only thing that drove him mad.
No, it's not like he was a regular. It's not like he was a 30-year-old pharmacy tech just hanging out. Then he saw this graphic and just
totally, tore his shirt off like
I'm gonna kill,
right?
Yeah.
No, yeah, she's
I don't love
she's
Sarah
gonna
Palin,
lose,
but
she's going to lose, but they were stupid in the first place.
Yes.
That's my guess. They were stupid to even have said that in the first place.
Well, they were definitely stupid, and they
had no motivation to bring her down, but they did have motivation to pump up their audience, and that's a bunch of BS.
Right. Yeah. So
that's my official legal. That's my legal review.
Yeah, I'm a little sympathetic to Palin here. I don't think she'll win. I don't know that she should win. I think our loose like libel laws and the difficulty of this is probably better for media in this country, but I don't know. I mean, sometimes as they point out in the article, let's say this goes through and Palin wins. That's actually would be a huge issue for like the right, because it would open up Fox News to a massive number of lawsuits from like Dominion and other voting machine companies.
Yeah, I guess that's true.
Like if that becomes the standard, then maybe that would be okay. Actually, maybe Palin should
it be the standard?
Right? Yeah, and in some other countries.
And then the larger question, I think, is and who enforces the standard? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Right. Yeah. Well, I mean, under our current system, it's judges and juries basically enforce the standard. So, and who decides who gets to be a judge? Well, ultimately, that is up to like presidents and Congress.
Well, legally, is a news outlet a separate entity than us? So,
what do you mean?
Well, what if I were to sit here and say, Sarah Palin posted that thing. It obviously made this guy do this, and this guy went and shot that guy that chick in the face, and it's fully Sarah Palin's fault. Okay, there, I just said it. Am I held to the same?
No,
standards?
I think we are. Yeah, I think we absolutely are. It's just no one's going to sue us because no one listens to us, and we don't have New York Times money.
Huh. So it really just comes down to you can't get blood from a turnip. Therefore,
exactly.
Somebody's just why would someone sue They want to hurt each other. It's a fight.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a political fight. Pretty much. Should the New York Times even be involved in political fights?
Well, I mean, they screwed up with their reporting, but I mean,
well, I'm just trying to hit all sides here because I like to think we have a broad range of intelligent listeners.
I thought it was just cat and cat at the, and 4 regular YouTube commenters ish and Andrea
and our families
and right. No, my family doesn't listen.
Yeah, my wife doesn't listen.
Yeah,
she's got better things.
And whoever happens to be so unlucky as to be coming home from work in Reading tuned into KCNR who hears us. What the hell is this SJW nonsense?
Yeah, okay. So again, this brings us back to our new slogan: think a little bit more before being a jerk about something.
Is that our new slogan?
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're gonna workshop it, but yeah, it's good. You got one more for us? Is that right?
Yeah. So Joe Biden has stated that any Russian troops crossing the border into Ukraine would trigger a swift response from the U.S. and allies in Europe, probably in the form of sanctions and not like military intervention, because that could kill everyone in the world. Biden has been unwilling to institute sanctions so far so as not to dilute their deterrent effect. Ukrainian soldiers interviewed by various reporters stated their belief that an invasion is inevitable.
This one has been on my mind a lot.
Yeah, well, it's everywhere right now because, of course, it is. It's scary.
Yeah, it is scary, and I'm a sci-fi idiot. I don't even really believe in states. I don't even really believe in countries. I think that if everybody just wasn't a jerk and we just kind of helped each other, life would be much better. But if we're going to play the game, of borders, we're going to play the game of borders.
Yeah, right.
I think about this with our southern border as well. Why do it seems like in the world of countries and playing the game of borders that your border would be like your last call. Like if some guy is being a jerk to me out in the yard, I'm just all right, screw this. I'm going inside. I'm not dealing with this. And I go inside and then he follows me in. All hell breaks loose at that point. You have crossed my border.
That's when you call the police.
Yeah, but now, that's when I call or I do something about it, probably more likely while my wife calls.
Yeah, fair enough.
So
If you're me, you call the police because he would
Yeah,
break me in half.
You're terrified because somebody came across your border. I mean,
Right.
obviously,
Just-
we all understand the fear that comes with that.
Sure, yeah.
And so I think about this a lot with our southern border. And I mean, up until now, the Ukraine, Estonia has been dealing with USSR, isn't it? And they've been really terrified of them. It seems like crossing a border would be all hell breaks loose. You cross that border, and we all know that all hell breaks loose. But we're not really playing the border game. We're just all, okay, well, you can push the border a little bit. It's only been established for, 60 years or something. But it's cool. It's like, I don't know.
That border hasn't been around 60 years because
okay, if you want to think about
since the USSR collapsed. So,
right. Okay, so the collapse of the USSR, a generation or more.
Yes.
But if you want to look back behind that, I mean, even during the USSR, I mean, Ukraine was a place.
No, that's true, and it's been. I think it's like wiggled a little bit, but I think ultimately the reason why it isn't just like you cross that border, we'll shoot you, is because we don't want a nuclear war. Like I said,
no, I know that,
Russia.
But you would think Russia would. You would think crossing the border would be the nuclear button. Like we threaten each other with nuclear button. If somebody came in my front door, I'd be all, this button is going down if you don't get the hell out of my door. This is a fight to the death at this point. You came through my front door.
Well, Russian.
Even worse if you came through the back door or the side door. That's even more scary. So it's like you came across the border. It's scary.
Russia is playing chicken right now with the whole world, and we are losing.
And why don't we team up? Why doesn't every country send an army to the border of the Ukraine and say, knock that crap off, slap them with the stick. This is it. If you're playing this game, if we're playing the game of borders, it's about to get weird.
Well, because that would start a war with Russia, which again,
I don't think it would if every country landed on their border and basically said, knock it off.
I mean,
they don't have enough missiles to nuke all of us.
Actually, they do. So there are about 4,000 cities in the world defined as places with about 10,000, with above 10,000.
I mean, without
people.
wiping themselves out. We're not coming in. Okay. We're not coming across your doorstep. But you are not coming across this doorstep. That's all I'm saying.
I'm just saying, if we want to play the game of like, if we want to throw down ultimatums, Russia is just as capable as the entire world minus Russia of throwing down, the ultimatum to end all ultimatums,
Right. But this is a reasonable ultimatum. You don't get to invade cross Ukraine, the border. Yeah. You don't. Now, Russia is upset about something specific, isn't it? That the Ukraine is going to join NATO or something.
Right. Yeah. So they're upset
because they don't bring these armies to their border, which is why they're upset.
Right. But I mean, that is their stated reason. So that's
what other reason is there? Is there like a shortage of tape decks and tracksuits, and they gotta?
Well, I mean, Ukraine was part of the USSR for a long time when like Putin was coming into power. People think that Putin probably, based on the statements he said and stuff he said to advisors, that he has like an expansionist philosophy, and he's said a whole bunch of times, yeah, Russia should totally control all these countries again. So I think that is definitely part of it. I think he's probably been looking for an excuse to annex the Ukraine again.
Yeah, it's weird. Really weird. And it's a weird country to start with.
I don't know what to say or what to think about it. I'm glad we appear to be being more cautious just with the military options, but because I don't trust Vladimir Putin to not be crazy.
Yeah, he seems so not crazy, though. That's the thing about him. But he's like full-on Bond villain.
No, I mean, he has this reputation as like, master He's a wacko. He is kind of a wacko authoritarian strongman, and people just don't really realize because they don't like look at his statements. But he's a scary guy, and I would not want to push him. But maybe that's sort of he wants us to think. I'm sure in some sense it is, but
well, do the Russians like him?
That's hard to say since there's no like.
Do the Ukrainians
like him? Some of them, yeah, but a lot of them really don't. So, it's
weird.
Honestly kind of divide between pro-Russian and anti-Russian Ukrainians.
All right. Well, you're listening to Radio Wasteland, and I would like to throw in that I propose a lot of questions and a lot of stuff like that. I do not know what I'm talking about. I like to consider myself. Kara here is like Doctor Who, and I'm like the companion that travels along to be the voice of the of your rando. I'm the voice of the rando. Watch more Doctor Who. You're listening to Radio Wasteland. Come on back.
Airwolf is a Mach 1 plus chopper that can kick butt.
It was an ultra-high-tech secret that fell into the wrong hands. Jan Michael Vincent, Ernest Borgnine. Airwolf, the pilot, a 2-hour special on USA's Nabisco Family Showcase.
All right, welcome back to Radio Wasteland. Kara, tell me about some mythology.
Yeah, so your mythological thing that people actually believed in for today is the Chaoskampf, or serpent slaying creation myth. So basically, a shocking number of ancient cultures around the world have a myth about a thunder god fighting a giant serpent, usually associated with water, and using its body to create the world. So this shows up in Mesopotamian religion, where Marduk slays the water serpent Tiamat and creates the world from her body, but also shows up in Norse mythology, Zoroastrianism, Shinto, and bits of it appear in Greek mythology. It's also echoed in the Hebrew Bible, where God parts the deep or abyssal waters, denoted by a cognate of the word Tiamat, and thereby creates the world.
Yeah, this is one
and
of those.
I know you've heard of this one because we talked about it a little bit before.
But, well, I mean, I get a lot of this from, and I don't know if I'm pronouncing it wrong, but in D&D, there's the dragon Tiamat. That I first learned about the multi-headed Hydra thing from the cartoon.
Mm-hmm. That is where I first heard about Tiamat as well.
Yeah, all right, awesome. And then, of course, Norse mythology, and then what did you say was in the Epic of Gilgamesh?
It wasn't in the Epic of Gilgamesh. It's in like Mesopotamian creation myths.
Right. Okay, Marduk. It's around that time.
Yeah, Marduk, and also Zoroastrianism, which is sort of the first like monotheistic religion in Eurasia, essentially, and Shinto and Greek mythology, and a little bit in like Judaism, Christianity, all that Judeo-Christian stuff.
Yeah. So really kind of there's three possibilities here that people came up with this separate of one another.
Right.
And there are not a lot of huge water serpents in all of these cultures.
We've all gone through the phase where we had our greatest cultural hero slay a sea serpent and create the world. Yeah, totally. That's something we've all been through.
Yeah, that's so BC. And then the second would be that, there's some truth to this myth. That there is a giant water serpent or something like that. And then the third would be, and this is the one that I like, even though the first one is probably the truth. It's probably came up with separately. We've seen this in a lot of things. I like the idea of the first one because man started somewhere.
Right.
People say Africa, the cradle of civilization, blah, 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 so on and so forth. I don't really care where it was. Man started somewhere. And they branched out and took stories with them. And maybe this was the equivalent of Harry Potter. It was like everybody's favorite story, which was tied into their religious belief systems. But religious belief systems were so loose at the time that it was more just a campfire tales and stuff that you tell about, and that basically the first group of people went out across the world and took their stories with them. I mean, is that, and then they just hung on for thousands of years. Is that?
Well, let me tell you what historians think happened. And
Okay,
it is basically that, because they think they've kind of figured this out. It all comes back to what is called the Proto-Indo-European people, which were a group of people who are believed, but we're not sure, to have originated in sort of the steppe. So kind of like Kazakhstan, like north of the Black Sea, some parts of what is today Russia, who spread out all over the Middle East and who spread out all over, Europe, Africa, Asia, down to India. And these guys predated Mesopotamian civilization, so they predated writing. We know a little bit about them from archaeological evidence, but mostly we know about them from just similarities in language between like India and like, parts of the Middle East and all that kind of thing. Because you can see, and linguists have sort of like reconstructed what they think some of the Proto-Indo-European words for like gods and stuff were. So like Jupiter, Zeus, this all dates back to what they believe the Proto-Indo-European sky god was, Deus Piter, which Deus Piter, Jupiter, Deus becomes Zeus in the Greek schema. There's many different versions of this. So they think that the Chaoskampf was part of the mythology of this Proto-Indo-European religion that, died out long before writing was invented, but still left behind traces in like Mesopotamia, which was basically the first culture to write things down, and on into these much later civilizations, many thousands of years after that. So,
well, that's the one I find to be most inspiring. So I'm glad that's the one that people are going with. It's like,
yeah,
sure, a giant serpent that wraps the world is cool.
Oh, certainly.
Nobody can argue with Leviathan, the world serpent. This stuff is cool.
Yeah,
but it's also a little scary.
What's also interesting about these guys is, the 12 Olympians from Greek myth?
No.
Oh, well, like how there's basically 12 major gods, Zeus, Artemis,
yes,
Athena, all that kind of thing.
The pantheon. Yeah.
Though that sort of 12 Olympian structure, also a Proto-Indo-European thing. And it's crazy. Echoed in Mesopotamia. So this religion that is so old that we don't even have any of their writing left, we've kind of reconstructed just from similarity, from the traces it's had on other cultures. But even as old as they were not like the first civilization, certainly. They were just one that happened to endure in the form of our mythology.
Right. I get why people lean towards ancient astronauts and all this stuff. There is a lot of stuff that you look at and you go like, holy smokes, that's a dude in a rocket ship in Mexico. There's a lot of that. But I do wonder if we're just selling ourselves short. If like we're so, we could never do that. It's like maybe like believe in yourself, man. Maybe we did do that. Have a little, species confidence.
Right. I like believe in yourself, man, as like sort of a historical position, like an archaeological position.
Right.
Believe
not
in
man, but like mankind. Like believe in yourself, man. Yeah.
No, I like that. Maybe that's our Radio Wasteland tagline. Maybe we're like one of those hang in there cats.
Right. Hang in there. Yeah, we need a picture of like some sort of like Australopithecus.
Right.
Say hang in there, man.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. You're listening to Radio Wasteland. Come on back.
Hey, you want some depressing history?
I was hoping you were going to ask me that. Nothing excites me quite like.
Nothing makes you happier than depressing history.
Right. All right. Hit me.
All right. So your depressing history for today is how Iran went from being a struggling but promising democracy to the brutal, theocratic, authoritarian state that we know today. So in 1901, a British millionaire, a billionaire in today's dollars, negotiated a deal with the government of Iran for exclusive rights to the oil in the country for 60 years. In exchange, the Shah, the dictator at the time, received a portion of the profits, an equal share of the resulting company, and a boatload of cash. Now, for a while, this looked like a pretty bad bet for the British guy, since they didn't find any oil for many years. Eventually, of course, they did, because Iran is lousy with oil, and this whole enterprise became one of the biggest oil companies in the world at the time, the Anglo-Persian Oil Company, later the Anglo-Iranian Oil Company. Now, after this, the government of Iran changes several times. There's a British-backed coup in the 1920s, which replaces one Shah with another. During World War II, due to long-standing enmity with the Russians, the Shah refuses to expel German nationals from the country at the behest of the Allies. And basically, the Allies invade and take over the country to get access to its oil and also just its critical sort of geographic position in the war in the Middle East. Now, following World War II, the country is in really bad shape because of the war and because they no longer have like any kind of, they don't have their own government. And eventually a deal is made to get them free elections so they can have their own government. And the Americans promise they will respect Iranian independence. Now, during all of this, the deal with the Anglo-Persian Oil Company gets renegotiated a bunch of times, including since the government is changing, including in 1933, where they promised to give Iranian laborers better pay, better opportunities for advancement, and use profits to help build schools, roads, hospitals, that kind of thing. And the Anglo-Persian Oil Company ultimately did not do any of those things. Now, fast forward to 1953. There's a newly elected prime minister, Mohammad Mossadegh. The country is democratic for the first time ever. He gets elected on a promise of making Iran independent, free, and prosperous. So one of the first things he does is start an audit of this oil company, now the Anglo-Iranian Oil Company, to ensure that they're living up to their end of the various contracts and stuff they've made with the Iranian government. Now, this goes on for a while, but the company refuses to cooperate with the audit. They refuse to hand over documents. They basically refuse to allow it to go forward at all. Eventually, Mossadegh decides, okay, since you won't cooperate, Iran will nationalize its oil and just expel the oil company from Iran entirely. The West responds with sanctions, then covert military operations, and then finally a coup wherein the British and Americans installed a new dictator who ruled until the Iranian Revolution in 1979. They also did this with heavy cooperation from the Iranian clergy, who weren't really fans of the whole democracy thing. And in 2013, the United States released documents about this coup called Operation Ajax and finally acknowledged, yeah, we did that. Oops.
I love how we are constantly apologizing for what we did 50 years ago.
It's true.
You know, if we don't stop, we're going to have to keep apologizing 50 years from now.
Yeah, and people are always like, oh, it's ancient history. Who cares? I care because we're probably still doing it. You know, we didn't acknowledge this till 2013. So, you know, I imagine in 50 years we'll hear, oh, yeah, we totally like destabilized Venezuela's economy in this way or that way or whatever. You know, not that Venezuela seemed like they needed a lot of help, but like that's just an example, you know.
Yeah, well, they did have oil. They had something. I mean, the other, no offense to other countries in South America, but they don't have what we want.
Right.
Venezuela does. They do have what we want. They have what everybody wants.
So like, I don't like to say, yeah, we intervened in this country militarily without like, because I sound like a conspiracy theorist if I say it without proof, but like, we're not going to get proof for 50 years.
Oh,
like,
no.
So
I know
all I
we don't have any
guess,
proof for Venezuela. Yeah, no, I get that. But we do have proof for Iran and the Ba'ath Party in Iraq. We do know that this stuff went on. This is not a secret. And yeah, I don't know. This kind of comes back to playing the game of borders. You know, we crossed their border.
Right.
You know, we went into their house. That's not, you know, now to be fair, if I hear my neighbor beating the crap out of his wife, I will then probably go into his house. You know, so
Right. So these guys were supporting the Nazis. So, like, of course we took over.
Yeah.
But then again, they were supporting the Nazis because, like, the Nazis were opposed to the Russians, and the Russians had been really, really bad to Iran for like centuries. But, still, there's never really an acceptable reason to support the Nazis. So, like, I don't have a huge problem with what we did during World War II, but, like, we totally did not keep our promise of an independent Iran.
Well,
we allowed them to be independent for like 2 years until they did something we didn't like.
Yeah, I don't expect the United States to be perfect.
No.
But I do expect us to be on the hero's journey. You like to write? You know what the hero's journey is?
Sure.
I like the idea that when confronted with something, we may make the wrong decision, bad things may happen, but ultimately over time we learn our lesson and things change. I don't feel like that's going on.
No, me neither. I don't feel like the United States is. I think we've just gotten maybe a little sneakier about it.
Yeah, or just playing our reputation, which is kind of the scary part, because as we sort of start to lose financial power, we can only rely solely on our reputation for so long.
Right.
But
I do want to point out that the British did spearhead this. So we were just
they're not innocent.
So, well, for anyone who's always complaining I'm making fun of America or, criticizing America, like, yeah, I am, but the British are worse. So take heart in the fact that we're not as bad as the British, okay? I'm not just criticizing America to be edgy. The British are worse.
Well, also, you're not necessarily criticizing America. This is part of the problem with the world.
Yeah. That people get so defensive.
I am an American. I am a patriot. I believe in America. I want America to make the changes that will make me extra proud to be an American. I'm not just proud. It's like my house. Again, the door. I'm not proud of my house because I just happen to be sitting in it. I'm proud of my house because we worked hard on it to make a nice house.
Sure.
Which we have done in the past and which we need to continue doing. So you can't do any of those things. You can't make a better life. You can't make a better family. You can't make a better country without, like, what's the thing in AA? An honest, one of the steps in AA is to do an honest inventory of oneself. If you don't do an
unflinching moral inventory. Okay, be honest. Did you hear about that from The Haunting of Hill House?
No.
Oh, okay. See, that's how I know.
I'm sure I did. I read the book and saw the movie, but
all right.
Or you mean the Netflix show?
Yeah. Because there's
I have way too many alcoholics in my family for that.
No, all right, fair.
But we're my family's Catholic, so a lot of them don't even know they're alcoholics.
No, I get it. Say no more.
Right. But without making an inventory of oneself, and then you got these people like going off like, it's like I was watching one of my Transformers shows. Who cares? But Bruce Springsteen got brought up, and somebody's just all like, "Oh, that guy's not a real American. He doesn't love America." I'm just all like, "What are you talking about?" I mean, his songs may bring a moral inventory, but he's also talking about the people in those struggles and how powerful they are and how strong they are, even though the framework maybe needs some work. I mean, come on, man.
Right. Yeah.
You can have a true American on both sides of this argument.
No, I think there's just this American civil religion thing where, like, our country is perfect. It has been perfect. And the only parts about it that aren't perfect are people trying to, like, it's just this reactionary nonsense. So,
yeah.
But
we need to treat it like my marriage. My wife came to me and she's all, "Oh, I have an idea for a haircut you need to get." And my response was, "Oh, that's great, because I had a few ideas for your hair too." And then she backed off.
Yeah. So the reason I like bring this all up, because people are always like, "Why even talk about it? It was so long ago." I have two things that annoy me about this thing. One, I didn't hear about this in schools. I had to go looking for it. How did I hear about this? I think I heard about it on a podcast years ago. And
you didn't even hear about it in college?
No, I didn't hear about it in college. And I took a couple history classes in college. And, like, to be fair, this wasn't the subject of those classes, but, like,
It does have far-reaching implications.
Right. And this is the problem. Like, when you're in college, unless you're like a history major, you're probably kind of done with taking like survey courses of history. So if you don't teach that stuff in high school, no one's ever going to hear about it. But that's not even my big issue, even though I think people should know about this stuff, which is why I bring it up. But my big issue is like, we just said, yeah, our bad, and went on with our day. You know, you run over someone's dog, or honestly, this is bigger. This is like running over someone's kid. And your response is, for like a year, no, I didn't do that. It's like, we watched you do it. No, I didn't do that. And then a year later, you're like, no, I did that. My bad. Of course, you're going to hate that person. Of course, you're going to like try to destroy that person.
Yeah.
Like, we acknowledged it and have done nothing.
Depends on if it's your favorite kid or not, but go ahead.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and it's not like you can buy them a new kid or anything, but it's like you can do something.
Right.
You can, I mean, in taking this metaphor to its conclusion, what you would do is you would turn yourself in if you were any kind of responsible. But there's no geopolitical equivalent of that, because like, what is America going to go to jail? Like, that's
right. That's the hard part.
But we can make, we can make reparations for it. We can do something to like take our part of the responsibility for what happened. And, it's not just Iran. There's dozens of countries where we should be taking responsibility that we haven't. And isn't responsibility like a cornerstone of American values?
You'd think so. People talk like it is, but it isn't. And, this also makes me think of reputation management.
Right.
In the work that I do, sometimes if a business has a bad reputation, you do reputation management. And so if you got a bunch of bad reviews, what you do is you go try to fix those reviews. If you can't, you know what you do? You do a bunch of good stuff and go out and get better reviews, so it buries all the bad ones.
Right. Yeah.
It's like, there you go. It's pretty simple, just become the good guy. Now,
right.
Don't get me wrong. There are a lot of places that the United States is the good guy.
Right. Yeah. We do some good stuff abroad.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we give more money as a populace.
Mm-hmm.
Per capita, we give more money. And that's great. We should do that.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean it's the only thing. I joke with my wife because she's a social worker and she helps homeless kids find stable housing. And she goes all around town, works with the whole area. And I always say, yeah, I love supporting you as you go out there because you make me look like I'm a better person.
Right.
Basically, she does all the social outreach and I do this. This is my contribution to the family.
Yeah. And I think part of it is a lot of the like good stuff, quote unquote, that we do abroad. Like, we do it, some of it with the intention that it will be good, right? Take the Iraq War, for example. No Iraqi is ever going to thank us for the Iraq War.
Right.
So many Iraqis died. Yeah, maybe. Like,
I'm just putting it out there. I don't know.
Their entire government was destabilized and, taken over by authoritarian religious factions for a while. And now it's sort of a democracy-ish, but they have no power. Like, the country is going to be irreparably damaged for a really, really long time.
Oh, yeah.
But we were like trying to help. Like the rationale was spread democracy. So it's like, that's us trying to help. That's not even us trying to like safeguard our interests.
Right.
So it's like,
yeah, you can't force a belief system on people. And I always, in these conversations, I always come back to the USSR because what brought them down was basically McDonald's and blue jeans. Basically, we just made our society look so good to them that was a major factor in what dismantled the Soviet Union. Was their people weren't interested in it.
Right.
So we just need to just drop McDonald's kids meals all over the country, apparently.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know. Less coups, maybe more building hospitals.
Yes,
kind of
I
thing.
agree.
Like, And how many hospitals do you need to build for running over someone's kids? Like, obviously the bad stuff is going to stick in people's minds a lot longer than the good stuff. But I think, given that our immense wealth and power comes from colonialism anyway, we should.
I would say one hospital per kid is fair.
One hospital per kid. Yeah. I mean, a hospital can help a lot of people. Yeah. One hospital per kid. That's our no foreign policy. Every time we kill a kid, we build a hospital.
My wife's going into labor. Get me to Little Billy Med quick.
God. And every time we kill an adult, we build the gas station. I don't know.
Right. Yeah. All right. You're listening to Radio Wasteland. And remember, if we all just work together, the world will be a better place. But you got to keep your eye out, because in the immortal words of Alfred Pennyworth, some people just want to watch the world burn.